A living legend on the football pitch and in the medical clinics, Antonio Cassano was a most unusual striker during his time in La Liga. He only lasted a season and a half at Real Madrid, but his legend in the capital of the Kingdom of Spain was so epic that to this day, minstrels halfway around the world continue to sing in verse of his few footballing achievements and his legendary performances off the pitch. Do you want to know his story? Without further ado, let the show begin. During his first seasons in professional football, Antonio Cassano became a superstar. First with Bari, before transferring to the then all-powerful AS Roma. The charismatic Cannonieri quickly stood out for his ability with the ball at his feet and for his character off the pitch. Together with Francesco Totti, they created a dream duo that led the Roman team to the best period in its history. And as Tony Cassano himself said in an interview, the first thing he thought as soon as he stood out in professional football was that he had become a millionaire, and therefore had lifted his poor family out of the misery to which they had been condemned. So a still youthful Florentino Perez decided to reinforce his Real Madrid side in the winter transfer window with the rising superstar of Serie A, and Cassano, ignoring the advice of his captain Totti, left the Italian capital for the Spanish one. His debut for Los Merengues could not have been better, coming out of nowhere to score a goal in the Copa del Rey against Real Betis Balompié, and making the Spanish front pages for the first time. But it would be the only front page for his magic on the pitch, unlike those depicting his embarrassments outside the stadium. Soon the good Cassano decided to give himself up to the good life of the Real Madrid Galacticos, and he considered that it was much better to score goals off the pitch than on. So much so that in his own autobiography, created at the tender age of 25, he claimed that during his time in Spain, he slept with more than 700 women. But that's not all. He had a waiter friend in the hotels who gave him all sorts of gifts, especially food. Cassano's favourites were donuts and croissants, of which he ate between 4 and 5 after every shag, according to his own words. That gives us the notorious figure of some 30,000 croissants and donuts inside the Real Madrid striker's belly in just over 400 days in the Spanish capital. This gluttony and passion for sex did not prevent him from showing some signs of quality in his first season. Despite the inability of manager Lopez Caro to lead a team full of stars, Cassano put on his best show in Spain within 2 months of arriving on the Iberian Peninsula. There, in a derby against the Atletico de Madrid Colchoneros, a Cassano who was already slightly overweight in the gut surprised everyone with a beautiful goal to open the scoring and with a fantastic display in which he showed why he had signed for Los Blancos. Quality with his feet, commitment when it came to disputing balls in midfield, and a spectacular passing vision like few players who have ever worn the Real Madrid shirt. Even so, it was too little for the Whites fans, who protested at the Italian star's clear lack of commitment in most of the games he played in his shirt. But by the 2007 season, Cassano was a new man. He had trained over the summer, employing the cone diet on the one hand and mixing it with hard training with Madrid's new coach on the other. That season, a new president, Ramon Calderón, arrived at the Santiago Bernabéu, and with him came a notorious investment in signings. Most notably, manager Fabio Capello, with whom Madrid had already won a league title in the 1990s. Everything seemed ideal for our little croissant-eating pig Cassano. An Italian coach who knew him, a new season, habits a little healthier than those he had lying on the bench the previous season, and the desire to leave a good taste in the mouth of the Spanish fans. But one performance of his doomed him. For months, the Transalpine star had cried foul in statements complaining about being called fat and being imitated both in his own country and in Spain, where comedian Carlos Latre showed that it was really easy to be Cassano. Just mix Homer Simpson with a mop of hair and you had the Real Madrid striker in action. But now, Cassano was the one doing the imitating. At the old Son Moy Stadium in Mallorca, Cassano did a marvellous imitation of manager Fabio Capello. He mockingly showed the legendary Mamadou Diarra the strict rules that the wise Capello ordered him to follow during training. He couldn't help it. He was being the centre of attention, something that good old Tony loved, and so he took revenge on all those who imitated him. The images reached Capello, and he ended the relationship with his protégé. Although he tried his best to get his career back on track at Madrid, the coach said enough was enough, and never included him in the lineup again. Cassano left, cursing everyone, except the Moritas and the waiters who gave him the sweets that so nicely deepened his bulging belly. His numbers were more than poor. In just 29 games, he scored a whopping 4 goals for the Merengues, the club where he scored the fewest goals and where he put the brakes on a career which had previously shown such a meteoric rise. After that, he played for the most prestigious teams in Italy, such as Sampdoria, Inter Milan and AC Milan, where he coincided with Zlatan Ibrahimovic, and together they made a wonderful comic duo, as you can see in these affectionate archive images. After suffering from too many heart ailments due to a mixture of sports drugs and late-night partying, good old Cassano said enough was enough and retired from football to do what he does best: criticise. You see, today he makes a living as a talk show host on classic sports programmes, where the last thing talked about is sport. And believe me, for that he is perfect. I'm convinced that our little piggy will have a prestigious career as a microphone blower. And when years later you check it out, remember, Uncle Football Stories said so all along.